Hi friends, I'm Savannah Wiseman. I am a senior here at Seaholm High School in the Flex program. Imagine that, doing my big word for the Flex program, and I'm a senior in Flex. So for my research paper, I decided to focus on the idea of the afterlife and religion and how it kind of has developed over the years and how it kind of came to be. I was wondering, I've always been curious about the afterlife and religion and spirituality, and I really wanted to do something kind of around that. And I was really hoping to kind of think of a topic question or a central question that was very thought-provoking for people. And one sec. It's so awkward. Oh my gosh. Okay. Sorry about that. Little distraction over here. Okay. But yeah, I really wanted to focus on wanted to have a central question that I was really thought-provoking, and I wanted people to really kind of go outside the typical viewpoint of religion and of the afterlife, and kind of just consider something new. And I kind of did it in a cynical way. I think it's more interesting, and to read something like that that's a little bit different than everything else. But I kind of wanted my big word to take a different approach to that. So in my paper, I talked about reasons that the afterlife isn't actually real, and reasons why religion can be disproved, and kind of different things for that. And just keep in mind that I'm not trying to actually disprove anyone's actual beliefs or anyone's religion or anything like that. I just kind of wanted to give it a different approach to it. I thought it was really interesting. I was talking to someone, they said that they wanted to see or read my paper, see what mine was about, because it gave a different viewpoint, and they've always kind of just been told their whole life through religion or with their religion that this is right, whatever, and they were curious about what was kind of else was out there, and that's exactly what I wanted to do. So by presenting these points, I'm simply just kind of sharing different viewpoints about religion that have kind of come up over time, that I've kind of seen, thought of, reflected on, researched, and I'm presenting to you now. So the first one is the idea of heaven and hell. In heaven is in the Bible, it is said that Satan was actually one of God's finest angels, and he ended up revolting or turning 1/3 of the angels against God and revolting against him, and wanting to get power and wanting to kind of overthrow him, God. And in return, God ended up sending Satan and the rest of the fallen angels, that they're not called, or demons, to hell to be tortured or to be punished for for being greedy and for trying to steal all his power and for uprising against him and sinning in that way. But it can also be argued that, I'm so out of breath right now because I can't breathe. It can also be argued that God is acting in a greedy way by doing this. Since Satan and his followers were trying to take God's power or some of his power away, they were sent to hell for being greedy, but God is sending them away so that he can maintain all of the power. And this can be thought of as being very greedy. He's trying to get all the power for himself. He's trying to maintain control. And it should be punishable by death, by hell, according to why he's sending the fallen angels to hell. And since greed is one of the 7 deadly sins, he would actually be punished for, if you're a really big deal, that God is being greedy in this sense, and that he is all-powerful and is trying so hard to maintain all this power for himself. Additionally, is that God is thought to be this great holy guy, and he's supposed to be just all good, and he's supposed to represent everything that's great in the world, and he's just so powerful and so whatever and stuff, and he just, overall, he just has good nature. And by sending people to hell to be tortured and to be beaten and doing all these things and stuff, this fiery pit of whatever, and the gates of hell says abandon all hope and all of that, it's really kind of contrary to what you believe God could do. And although it is true, he created people and he created different things that have flaws and different things, and people do bad things and all of that, he didn't necessarily make them do those bad things, which is what makes it different than hell. Hell is a direct, just bad place that he created or supposedly created to punish people, and that's very against his nature if you believe that he is as good-natured as he is supposed to be. And so that kind of just creates inconsistencies that might be able to disprove the idea of God being real or heaven being real or hell being real, is that he's not acting in response to his good nature. And some might argue, counter-argument here, is that he's all-powerful and he can do whatever he wants and his word is law and it doesn't actually matter if he follows it or not. And like, yeah, I guess that's true. But because he is good of nature, because he is so honest with everything and stuff, and he's supposed to be at least, he would follow his own rules. And like, yeah, you can't like assume what God would do, but if you are that good of nature, you would follow what is good and what you are preaching and what you are said to have done or be doing. And he's not, and that causes a problem, and that causes inconsistencies, and that's exactly what causes the reason to not believe in the whole system of God and how heaven and hell was created and all of that. Also, in a book that I was reading called The Gargoyle by Andrew Davidson, which is a kind of modern take on Dante's Inferno, they discuss the idea of suffering and how suffering brings one closer to God because they are able to understand what he went through when he was like dying on the cross and for all of our sins and stuff, and you're able to connect with them more, and you're more at peace with everything. And thank you. And the idea of heaven and hell really don't line up with this idea at all, because if suffering is supposed to bring you closer to God, then it doesn't make sense for someone to go to hell and be be tortured and suffering for eternity, while people in heaven are rid of all their sufferings and all their problems and health concerns and all of that, and are living in this glorious world, because that would technically make them farther away from God, because they are not suffering anymore. They're not feeling the same thing that he did, and he's not connected to them anymore. So those in hell would technically be closer. And some say that they're sent to hell so that they will be able to like get closer to God. They kind of like repent their sins, and they're somehow more godly because of it, or more holy because of the fact that they're suffering through it now, and they're able to connect with him. But that's kind of not a thing at all, really. They're being tortured because they did something bad in their lives, and that's whatever. So that's wrong. Okay. I have an actual reason for that in a sec, but whatever. Another reason that I found that are kind of like is kind of an inconsistency with. Kind of an inconsistency with afterlife religion, all of that. It just the whole crux of religion itself, like the whole idea of it is kind of just on a corrupted system a little bit, if you really look at it. And people don't really question it that much. It's kind of just a staple in everyone's society and everyone's lives, and some believe in it, some don't, and if you do, you don't generally question it very much. It's really just kind of something that you've grown up with and you kind of just believed, and so this kind of makes it more interesting if you actually like look into it a little bit. It's really not a groundbreaking discovery. If you realize that there are so many different religions that are actually out there and that have been created and that have been adapted from other religions, such as Christianity coming from Judaism, and how they're so different in so many different ways. There's just really no way to be able to justify that and say that, like, oh, it's all God, though. And, like, there's monotheism and, like, polytheism, and there's just, like, there's no way that it all came from, like, one big idea. Or, like, one God or one anything. And that it was all formed by the idea, or formed by people, and their different ideas and their different interpretations, and what they believe that they heard from God, which is kind of just maybe schizophrenia, some have argued. And, like, why trust them? And, like, it's really just a whole big, I'm so hot. It's a whole big thing. And it really can't necessarily be trusted, which so kind of comes up with problems, and kind of you can poke holes in a little bit of the reasoning of some of the things here. So, as I was saying, there's, like, a lot of different differences with all the religions, but, like, specifically one that's, like, super easy to notice are the ideas of the afterlife. So, for example, Christianity believes in heaven and hell, like eternal heaven and hell, And then also sometimes they believe in what's it called, purgatory. So it's like temporary hell, kind of. Hinduism believes in nirvana and reincarnation and those things. So like nirvana, is a state of being opposed to a physical place such as a heaven or hell. Once you reach nirvana, you were just at peace with yourself and with the world and with everything. And it's, I don't even know, but like, it's a state of being, and that's what's the important thing, is that they have a completely different mindset about the afterlife with it. So like it's similar to hell, or wow, that's wrong. Similar to heaven in the sense that it's kind of like an internal peace that you get now. But it's not at all, since it is like a state of being opposed to a place that now rids you of those problems that you have. And then once someone reaches nirvana, this is different, is they can choose to be reincarnated into a teacher for those to help those who are seeking to reach nirvana. They can come back and be a teacher for those people. So that's like, they believe in reincarnation, which is not prevalent in Christian beliefs. In Judaism, also an example of this is that they don't believe in hell at all. They believe that people just go into heaven. It's fine. Okay. I don't really know. I have to research in my paper. I gotta look into it a little bit more because I don't actually know anything. Yeah, I wrote about it. Don't worry. I wrote a lot about Judaism actually.
Yeah.
So I talked about how it like stems from
religion.
Woo! Also, that Christianity. Another reason is that Christianity stems from Judaism. So this kind of goes back to like people interpreting kind of how they want and kind of creating their own separate branches of things, and it is all man-made. So yeah, the idea that Christianity stems from Judaism is really a corrupt thing, because even if you argue that it was like a prophet and God was speaking through them and they were able to like tell other people and do all this whatever stuff, it still was their own interpretations of what he was saying, potentially if he was actually speaking to them, and it was all taken in different directions and became something completely different and completely new and just all completely separate, and there's just really no way to justify that as being the creation of a God. So yeah. Another thing I talked about in my paper is kind of going off out of the whole thing of like, this is why it doesn't exist. I also talked about kind of like why people do believe in it and why it is still prevalent today, and kind of what makes it important in our society and stuff for people to believe in it. And really a big part of it, why people believe in religion and the afterlife and spirituality and all of that, is because it gives them security about not only their afterlife, but their physical lives now. Being a part of a specific group or specific religion or whatever gives gives people a sense of like community almost. It gives them some kind of, I don't know what I'm trying to say right now, but like it makes them more comfortable with their lives and makes them more confident that who they're hanging out with and who they're choosing to associate themselves with are sharing of the same beliefs almost, and sometimes, and like ideas and thoughts and whatever that they are as well, and makes them just more confident in what they believe in, who they are, and what they're thinking and doing and everything, and it just gives them a sense of security with their lives that nothing else can provide for them, because it's just in themselves that they think they believe it's true, and it becomes true for them, and that's really important, and it gives them security. Another really important thing in terms of security is that, remember why people believe in the afterlife and stuff, that it gives them security, is that people believe that they have more of like a sense of control when they believe in the afterlife. They think that after following certain rules and doing something and being saved or doing whatever, they can almost like predict or kind of like dictate where they're going to go once they die, which is really important to some people. Oh my goodness. And it gives them control over their lives, and it gives them like a purpose and something to do with it, which kind of leads me to the purpose. In my paper, I talked about how it gives people a false sense of purpose. Because I said that people follow the afterlife, not blindly, but they have it incorporated in their lives so much sometimes that they are so willing to like do anything to get into heaven and stuff, and they're so willing to like please God and like do everything for someone else and for something else that they don't even know is really truly there, that they kind of lose a sense of purpose in their physical lives. And so I argue that it created a false sense of purpose for their lives. But I don't actually necessarily believe that 100%. I think that as long as people believe that it's giving them something to do, it's giving them some kind of hope for the future, it's giving them something to look forward to, something to be happy about, then it's absolutely worth it. It is 100% purpose. I know, I'm so excited. It is 100% absolutely worth it, and it gives them so much purpose and stuff, and more power to you then. If religion is what it takes to be happy and to have something to believe in, something to go for, something to strive for, something to make important in your life, that is all that matters then. And yes, it does give you purpose, and it does give you something to do, and that's the whole point of life, is figuring out what is important and what you strive to do and what you want to do with things. So religion is actually really a great thing, opposed to, despite what I say in my research paper, I want to make it very clear that I do support the idea of believing in something, and I do support the idea that religion does provide security and purpose and does give clarity to uncertainties that may be in people's lives, and it makes people feel a lot better. Is that 16? Okay. Makes people feel a lot better and stuff, and it's just really a great thing to have if you choose to, and if you choose to embrace it in a specific way. That's awesome. So I can't turn this page. Sorry about that. Okay, so for my service learning project, I actually had a really hard time with this. I contacted a couple, Beaumont Hospital, the hospice center and stuff, where people basically just go to die. And they have a whole system of like grief counseling and all of that, because I talked about grieving in my paper a little bit. And I really wanted to kind of expand on that in terms of my service project, because there wasn't really a whole lot else I could do for it. And it actually has been a long time that I've been like struggling to figure this out, because everyone's been saying that I need like a lot of like help with this. People are already in charge of this. People already have it handled, and there's not really a whole lot I can do for it. What was your idea? I already forgot it.
So I'm doing a Day of the Dead party to show how
I might
Mexicans
do a Day of the Dead
celebrate
party
dead.
to show what some cultures, Mexican culture, does to celebrate death instead of mourning it almost.
After.
Like it's what?
Like Day of the Dead is their comfort, where the afterlife is like in America.
Yeah, they feel as though like there's loved ones that have passed on kind of like come back and kind of like share the day with them a little bit and stuff. And they're there in spirit, and it's like a comforting thing for them. So having a Day of the Dead party would be actually really sweet. You have like the sugar skull, and be really cute, and get the flowers, the whole setup. So kind of
celebrate
that
that.
would be so fun.
Let's
So it'd
do
be
it.
really cool to, even though Day of the Dead has already passed, unfortunately, we can just kind of have a party, celebrate it, and just kind of show how some people mourn, how some people choose to deal with the idea of death and the afterlife and their whole everything with it. So yeah, but in conclusion, believe what you want to believe. It's all fun if you believe it. Whatever makes you happy, it's what's important. Sorry, my paper was really cynical and depressing and kind of sad for some people, but I wanted it to be really fun to read. I got an A, so I guess it was. This presentation's not going anywhere, but it's better than my first one. Hey.
It is. See how much
Woo!
the presentation
It actually helps a
improves?
lot. This is good. I hate it a lot, but it's good.
Thank you.